Okay, it's getting ready to come up, guys. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome. We are excited to have you as a part of this special edition of Pain in the Pews Mental Health and Ministry. I am Chocelia Cookie Payne, founder of Pain and Glory Incorporated, and we are just excited, as excited as you can be in this particular moment. Excited in the fact that we have the opportunity to bring before you some amazing people to share some information, some hope, some inspiration, and we are elated in having this platform to have this space where we will be sharing with you guys some great information. I have with us some dynamic people, and I'm honored to share with you. I'm going to introduce to you guys the people that we have with us, and the title of this segment, this particular segment is Care in Crisis, speaking to the community. And so we have a group of people who thought that it was worth being a part of to be here with us today, and I'm excited. We have with us Dr. Brian Jones, LPC of Joshua Generation Care and Consulting Services. We have with us Charlene Flagg, LCSW. She is of Matters of the Heart Consulting Services. We have Alexis Wills. She's an educator there in the DC area. She is with Alliance, Urban Alliance. And we also have Professor Kiba Richmond Green, who is a relationship expert, and she is also her company Better is amazing. Listen, you guys, as you're coming on, you're in for a treat. Not only is this going to be helpful and healing, it is going to stir up some things in us that are positive. We've had enough of things that are stirring up other emotions. We need something that's going to stir up help, healing, support. We need something that's going to give us something, a salve, if you will, to help us to go forward. And so we've assembled this group of people who are going to provide you with some wisdom, some insight, some intentional thinking. And I'm excited about that. So as you're coming on, go ahead, feel free to share. We love the likes. Be sure to like what you hear. If you're one who's a good scribe, if you hear some aha moments, go ahead and type in as a scribe for us. We would love that. We want to hear your voice. We're speaking to the community, and you, my dears, you make up the community. So we appreciate you guys for being on. So with that said, I am going to start off, and I'm going to let these phenomenal people speak to you and tell you why it is that they're here, what it is that has touched their hearts, and what it is that their area of what pain point will they be touching on. So I'm going to start with my dear friend, Dr. Brian Jones.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Brian Jones. I'm the Executive Director of the Joshua Generation Care and Consultant Services here in Atlanta. And I'm also an ordained minister and a chaplain and a CPE supervisor. The reason why I say all that, not to pat myself on the back, but we're in a crisis, and I'm so excited. And soon to be doctor, maybe, Cookie, Celia Cookie Payne, thank you for the invitation to be a part of this panel. Just briefly, I have been kind of quiet about this, about not the pandemic, but just about the racial tensions and things, and I haven't really spoke on it. There's a lot that I want to say, but just in summary, we're in crisis. I've been saying that there's a mental health crisis for the last 3 or 4 years on my show, the Therapeutic Conversations show. And what I mean by that is the definition for mental health the definition I'm giving mental health is that any disruption in your normal course of life, mind, body, and spirit, any disruption. And all of us, including the mental health professionals and people that give care and ministers and pastors, all of us are being disrupted during this pandemic and during these this racial tensions that are rising up. And what I want to say is we have to begin to educate persons about mental health because people are experiencing all kinds of mental health challenges. And what I want to say to the community and also to the church is that we are not prepared to deal with people in trauma. And that's not an attack on the church, but we need to get prepared. So, what I want to talk about today is what educational tool can we provide for people during this time, because everybody plays a part. It's not just the mental health professionals, but it's everybody who's connected is playing a part in the healing process. But there's disruption going on, and all of us are disrupted. I don't care whether you have millions of dollars or whether you just unfortunately lost your job. All of us are being affected by this pandemic, as well as the racial tensions and other things that are going on in our community. And things have heightened. So, what I'm putting the word out and sounding the alarm is that we need to be trained and educated on mental health and wellness. That is the bottom line. That's my elevator speech today. So thank you. That's what I want to be talking about during this panel, and helping people to process those things: anxiety, depression, just confusion, you know, lack of peace, lack of understanding. We can go down the list, but any kind of disruption and shakeup, it's a mental health challenge. And all of us are called to be caregivers and healers during this time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian. And you are absolutely right. We are in a state of crisis. The pandemic has been going on for 3.5 months now. Actually, probably the actual virus has been out longer than that, since the beginning of the year. But the pandemic, has been affecting us for 3 months. We've got families that are shaken by this unemployment. There are children who are struggling with understanding what in the world is going on. Their life has been upended. And then now we have, on top of that, we have the racial injustices, and we see it played out, not just reading about it in the newspapers like our parents may have done back in the day, but we see it in 3D. We see it in living color, not 3D, but we see it in living color. And so over and over and again through social media and television. So we have that responsibility, yes, of training and teaching and understanding. Thank you so much, Dr. Brian. Next, I'm going to bring Professor Kiba Richmond Green. Thank you so much, Professor Green. We want to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chelsea. I appreciate being here. I just want to echo off Dr. Jones. Seriously, like the crisis we're in with mental health and trauma is so severe. And so I think that we don't understand trauma, and so we don't understand what we're looking at, and we don't understand mental health. I say it all the time. We don't know what mental health looks like. So we call it everything else but that. And so if we don't get a grip, I think this time is really going to bring about a change in so many areas of our life: spiritually, mentally, physically, economically, with the COVID happening on top, and then back to back these racial problems. Um, we're about to see a drastic change in the world globally. And so things will never be the same again. So I just want to echo off Dr. Jones. Absolutely, that trauma is key. I don't think we realize that we're inundated with the media, constantly watching that video over and over again. What is that doing to our psyche? What is that doing to our children? I mean, putting them out there. I understand that they need to be a part of the movement, but at the same time, we're putting the kids out there in the march, in the movement. What are we doing to them? What are we saying to them? Are we because we can't even verbalize it as adults. So how are we going to help them manage and maintain good mental health when we ourselves don't even know how to process what's happening in the world right now? I know I skipped over my elevator speech, but so I'm sorry. Professor Kiva Green, I don't know, psychotherapist, but Better That Life is my company, and we provide luxury service where we will come to you and help you manage a crisis anywhere from 24 hours to I'm sorry, from 7 days to 31 days. So what it is we will come to you and we will actually stay with you and help you process and manage a crisis in a location of your choice. Because what I found is, again, and Dr. Jones and Charlene, you probably can speak to this, Ms. Flag. Uh, when they're coming into the office, we're constantly doing rework, right? Because we're constantly sending them back out to the environment that they're a part of. So if I'm not really getting to the solution, because I'm always have to constantly rework the problem, because I can't deal with the entire environment that they're going to. So if I can deal with the whole family, if I can work with the entire family and help them get a solution and a resolution, then we can probably tackle some things and maybe get over the hump and get to the next level. So again, I came up with the service where we will actually come to you and help you manage your crisis in your home or location of your choice. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love it because you're hands-on. You are doing it for the people, hands-on and engaging with them. Something you said just now was something I was thinking about just this morning. And that is, I love the fact that people are getting their children engaged in the whole process. However, my heart also hurts for those children who are trying to understand it, those children who have to deal with the nightmares that I've been hearing about, the children who are still trying to deal with the fact of being quarantined and not being able to go back to school, and now they're thrust into something that they don't understand, which is protest. And I understand that the wanting the I understand wanting to have your children educated on that level and understand. But when you're so passionate and you're so engaged that you forget that you have to teach them on their level, it's a bit much. I know many of us were just as outraged when we saw the two AU Center students that were wrongfully is such a tame word, but that were just treated.
Dragged, like you said, dragged out of their vehicles,
Yeah, yeah.
assaulted in front of
Assault. That's
the
what I was
world.
trying to find. Yes,
Yeah.
assaulted in front of the world.
Yeah.
And so um, we have a responsibility. And looking at them, I posted something on yesterday on Facebook. It was a speech by Dr. King, and he was talking about being tired of protesting, and he didn't want to be a martyr. But here's the thing about Dr. King. He was at that time in his mid 30s. He was just close to the age of those who are out there protesting now. He wasn't, an older dude. He wasn't, in his
Yeah.
50s, 60s. He was a what we would consider now millennial at that time. And so he had a voice he was trying that he did. I was about to say tried to share, but he did share, but it was hard, and he expressed that. So I want to bring before you a young lady who I've known for quite a bit of time, but I'm stepping out of the role of having known her and stepping into what she has to offer, and that is Alexis LaShawn Wills, who is also an alum of Spelman, but also an educator in the DC area. Alexis, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's so great to be here. Of course, it would be much better under better circumstances, of course, but we are, like they say, what is it? We're together or separate together, whatever the new pandemic saying is. But thank you so much for this opportunity. And as you said, I am a Spelman alumna, and so absolutely hit the fan when I saw that on the stream. I'm like, that's close to home. That was like a little brother and a little sister to me. And in addition to all of the other happenings that have been going on for these past 3.5 months, as an educator, so I am a part of I work for a nonprofit, Urban Alliance in Washington, D.C., and I do educational support. I like to call it educational support because I'm not necessarily in the classroom, but we do work study for high school seniors, and we also do post high school planning for the high school seniors. And so though we're not in the classroom, we are still very much so tying it all together. What are you learning in the classroom, and how are we going to apply it to the world after we get done with the classroom, right? Or at least the first half of the class, because college is next. But as an educator, this time has hit me a little different. I don't know, you know, all of the killings previously have really hit home, but this one just felt like it was sitting on my lap. And this week has been rough. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a rough one for me. And so I just find myself trying to find the balance between being a millennial. I just freshly 26 in March, so still figuring, some things out. But as a millennial, but also as an example and as a leader to my students, trying to find that balance. And when I was talking earlier this week, we have a double consciousness of being this leader, but also being pissed off, right? And so just trying to find that link is what I've been dealing with. And so today, I just really want to talk about how we can still be that example, but also use our voices. And especially, and it sounds like we are all educators of some sort. So I think you all get it when I say, like, you want to protect your students, you want to protect those that you have an influence on and that you work directly with. And that's my bread and butter. Didn't know it until recently, but I'm here now and I'm like, yeah, okay. So this isn't just a me problem. This is a us problem. And I really want to speak to what that looks like from a millennial standpoint, a millennial educator standpoint, and then just how we can be that example for our young people and raising them up, because I tell them all the time, we have some great strong backs to stand on, and so now it's our turn to make sure we are keeping those bridges together so we can move this thing forward. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you. Now we move on, and thank you for being so eloquent with that, because we needed to hear your voice. Um, we now move on to Charlene Flagg, who is, if you guys remember, if you've been following Pain and Glory for a minute, then you know that she was on with us recently, and just really shared some really important information with us about our mental health and our physical health as well. So Charlene, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. And to Chelsea, I want to say thank you so much. I am so honored that you considered me and invited me to be part of such an esteemed panel. My name is Charlene Flagg. I'm a Christian therapist in private practice. The name of my practice is Matters of the Heart Counseling Services. I specialize in bridging the gap between faith and science, and integrating the principles of psychology with the power of theology. Research indicates that 80% of Americans have a faith perspective. It's the lens through which we see the world. It helps us to make sense of our lives. So I use faith as a strength to help individuals to manage their symptoms so that their psychological disorders don't impede them from achieving their purpose. This morning, what I'd like to do is to help you cope with what has been described as this dual virus of COVID-19 and racism. In doing that, I will briefly speak on the topic, don't break down before the breakthrough. It is my goal to encourage you to unleash the power of your mind, your thoughts, to not just survive, but thrive through this crisis. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you, Charlene. My goodness, thank you. I love it. I'm excited listening to you all. I am so blessed to know each and every one of you. I can't even tell you. I'm sitting over here like a kid, sitting among her favorite superheroes. I'm just so excited. And that, lastly, we're going to hear from my dear friend, Brian Keith Anderson, who's going to share with us his why on being here today. Welcome, Brian.
Welcome, my sister. And once again, I apologize for coming on so late, but we're traveling today. But I'm happy and honored to be a part of, once again, an esteemed group of individuals who have one cause: to let everyone know that there is a way to make it through these difficult times. My name is Brian Keith Anderson. I'm the co-founder of Beautiful Scars, Inc., where our motto is come to us with open wounds and leave with beautiful scars. What do? We're a 501c3 that goes out wherever there's a need, people who are suffering from mental illness and addiction disorders. We go out and speak and give hope and possibility. And the reason why I can do that is because I was one of those individuals who suffered. What do I mean by that? Suffered from mental disorders, addiction, homelessness, hopelessness. And it took somebody who had been through what I was going through to finally reach me. And God turned my life around. So what I want to bring to this panel today is there's a 3-step process that I created. What do you do when on top of everything else, life keeps showing up? 3-step process to get through that. And I know we all need it now with everything that's going on. So once again, it is a pleasure to be here.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys, I literally could give you all your own segment by yourself and just let you go and just sit here like and grab some popcorn and be happy about my life. But we're going to move on as a panel because I promise you, you guys are just um, you are literally, as I said before, the salve. And if, for those who may not know what I mean by that, a salve is something that brings healing. So you guys, I appreciate that that in your own strength that you're bringing so much. For my panelists, I'm going to shift just a little bit, shift the order just a little bit. We're going to start out with Professor Kiba Richmond Green. We're going to start out and let her just talk from her heart and talk from her area, because I know, Professor Kiba, you already started it actually when you began to speak about what's going on in our families and what's going on with the trauma. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to tell us. I yield the floor to you, ma'am.
I guess I'm almost like Dr. Jones in the sense that I haven't been verbally or vocal about what's happening in the world. I think I come from a different perspective in sense of as Miss Flag say, faith component. I'm looking at it from a spiritual area, from a spiritual contextual place. And so what I mean by that is I understand what's happening in the world because I read the Bible, and I'm going from what God is saying is happening right now in a prophetic way. And so I'm looking at Revelation, and I'm looking at, you see what I'm saying? I'm looking at Ecclesiastics, and I'm looking at Exodus, because um we're in another Moses era, right? Noah era. And so I understand it from that place. But again, having been to school and maybe, I don't know, a little bit of that helps, and a little bit of, um, having a relationship with Christ helps. But for those who are in a place where they can't see it from those lenses, you understand what I'm saying? I get it too. I hurt for them as well, because I see people grieving. Now, don't get me wrong. I break down crying every day. I really do. I cry every day when I see a video, or I see or I hear a mother's pain, or um I cry. I literally cry every day because it does hurt. It's so sad to see um that we're in 2020 and we're still experiencing this. And who would have thought? When we were kids, we thought flying cars, we thought the Jetsons, right? We thought we would be in that space by now. And so to be here in 2020 and still see the pain from 1950 and 1960 and 1860, and still feel like we're not progressing, but we are. And so I think if I could speak to the people from a level of and I'm sure Charlene is going to do a better job of this than I am, but from a place of spirituality, and saying that God is in control. Trust God in the process, because he has this thing under control. Everybody has an assignment. And I know that's bigger than what people want to hear when they're grieving, but everybody has an assignment, and he's given the enemy an assignment, and he has an assignment. And everything is coming together to do what it's supposed to do for us to get on the other side of this thing. And so it has to look worse before it gets better. It has to get worse before it gets better. It's just like when we're going through therapy, when we're in the process, it gets a lot worse before it gets better. A lot of people want to tap out and give up in the middle of therapy because it's work. And we have work to do right now. Everyone here is working to either process it ourselves or help other people process, help the world process. It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of hurt. It's a lot of anger. And so I think that if we can understand that, if we just stand firm. What I don't want to see this time is I don't want to see us do all of this work, get to the trial, riot, and then we go back to the world and act like nothing happened 6 months later. I don't want us to get there because I think we lose momentum really, really quickly, and we drop the ball because we're frustrated. I think it's out of frustration. I don't think it's just a consistency thing. I think it's out of frustration, and we feel like we're never going to see the promise. And so we have to be real, real clear that this is going to be a long fight, and this is going to be a road that we're going to have to continuously travel maybe for years. And so we can't drop the ball in 6 months in December when Christmas comes and the ads come up and they fool us again and take our attention off of what's really happening, because it may be a year or two before these trials happen, if that, because the process of legal process, we don't know when they're going to have a trial, if they're going to have a trial, if they're going to plea out, whatever happens. We have to stand firm on what we believe and what we're doing right now to make those changes. I think that's going to be the biggest lesson that we take away from this. This may be 5 years. We have to keep marching. We have to keep moving. We have to keep fighting, because if we don't, we're going to continue to go in a circle and a cycle. And our children, unfortunately, these young children that we have now, the millennials, or I don't know what this is. What is this? The X generation? What is this generation? They don't think like us, right? So they're the main ones who are out here now on the streets. A lot of young people out here. I have millennials. I think I got 28 and 26. I think my kids. So I think my kids are millennial. But the ones under them, like 18, they're the ones who are really leading this fight out here. And they're not going to stand by and let us, and when I say us, I'm talking about us older people, seasoned people, continue to let things continue to get this way. So they're going to either do one thing. They're going to retaliate. They're going to march, and then they're going to retaliate, because they're not the generation that's going to stand by and just talk. And so we have to be ready and prepared for that. Are we ready and prepared for that? Well, Dr. Jones, you're prophetic in Joshua generation, because that's what we're living in, Joshua generation. And so if we're not ready for the war, I'm telling you right now, strap up, put your boots on, put your whole armor on, because we're in a fight for our lives. And so I think for me, again, I come from a spiritual perspective, so I have peace in this. I have peace in knowing what's on the other side of this. I have peace in knowing that God is in control of this. But I also understand from the other side, from the natural side, from a person who may not even grew up in the church, or who may not even understand what's happening right now, that no, all I want to do is fight. All I want to do is, rob or burn down a building. I get it. I get it. I do. I get the frustration. But at the same time, I think we all have to understand that this is going to be a long fight, and we all have to be prepared for the longevity of that. So I think God has been speaking to me for years about get in shape. You're gonna have to walk, you're gonna have to run, you're gonna have to swim, because it's coming. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to be physically, mentally, and spiritually fit for the war that's about to happen right here in America. And I don't think we want to deal with that, because we don't really understand like the war that's coming over here. We see it everywhere else. We go and drop bombs. We go and take over places and all of that, but we haven't seen it on this side, and it's coming to this side, and we have to be ready for that. And so, not to scare people, but to prepare people. It's time to pray and prepare. That's the word I hear in this season: pray and prepare. And so we have to get ready to help our people get in position to do that. And so a lot of us are not ready. We're not ready financially. We're not ready physically. We're not ready mentally. We're not ready spiritually. And so we have to get in position to help our people be ready to go for the long fight. That's really where I'm at.
That is awesome, Professor Kiva. One last thing, because I know that you have a class to teach as well after this, and I thank you for your passion and for your heartfelt influence that you presented with us. Tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Okay. I'm on all social media as Professor Kiba Richmond Green. Also, again, better, BETT-R.life. Better.life is the name of the company. And again, reach out to us if you are in a crisis, and you feel like you need someone to come and help you um, manage your crisis, you or your family manage your crisis. Like I say, we have people who would come to you 24 hours, 7 days a week, excuse me, in a minimum stay of 7 days to help you manage your crisis in the location where you are. So it's better, BETT-R.life, better life.
Got it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm putting it actually in the comments right now. Got it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Now we're going to segue over to Charlene Flagg, who has some great information that she's going to be sharing with you. Listen, if you haven't already, share, share, share. You all are in for a treat. Listen, this is something that you would pay top dollar for, trust me. So share, share, share as you're getting this great information. I yield it over to you, Charlene Flagg.
Okay, Chelsealia, I'd like to begin by quickly sharing my screen. And if you guys would nod and let me know that you can see the screen. Okay, and I'm just going to move right into this. And as I briefly shared, and I'm saying the word briefly twice, I will briefly speak on the topic, don't break down before the breakthrough. God himself is declaring that our breakthrough is coming. He's saying, hold on. And as I briefly mentioned, we have the power within our minds to not just survive, but we're going to thrive during this crisis. I'd like to begin by sharing with you a fundamental principle of psychology, and it's going to be the foundation of the message. Thoughts trigger emotions. Emotions trigger behavior. And I particularly want to hone in on that part, that psychological principle, that thoughts trigger emotions. Because it's our thoughts that's shaping the reality, our reality of what we're experiencing. And that's what's triggering the various emotions. And as I mentioned, I'm a Christian therapist. I integrate psychology with theology. There is a parallel scriptural principle in Proverbs. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Thoughts trigger emotions, psychology. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, theology. So the question is, how are we? How are we right now? And I just want to quickly look at the dual crisis with which we're being confronted. First of all, the COVID-19 pandemic. From February 16th to March 15th, the number of antidepressants prescribed in this country increased by 18%. Since that time, the diagnosis of depression has increased by 30%. This comes from a University of Michigan study where people are reporting symptoms of feeling fatigue, insomnia, and feelings of hopelessness. And according to a Harvard professor, he says, I don't know anyone right now that's not having depression-like symptoms. And I want to say that again. I don't know anyone right now that's not having depression-like symptoms. This is a Harvard professor from the Harvard Medical School professor and president of the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. He says it's hard to keep going when our brains are constantly on fight or flight. It makes people really tired. If you're having trouble concentrating or getting out of bed, it's not abnormal. It's normal. And that's what I hear in therapy. People are saying, I'm tired. I don't have the energy to get up. I can't, and sometimes I can't sleep. This is all part of the trauma with which we are facing. But again, I want to encourage you, don't break down, because our breakthrough is indeed coming. In considering the other part of the dual crises, mental health and racism, the experience of racism has been identified, scientifically identified, to be a chronic stressor. Even prior to this crisis, this has been studied for years. Racism is a chronic stressor that negatively impacts mental health. It increased the rates of depression and anxiety. And the primary factor is hyperactivation of the physiological stress response. And I will briefly speak about that. And we've had the unfortunate murder of George Floyd that's depicted. And you've seen these images. And this is what we're facing right now that's triggering the hyperactivation of the physiological stress response. And we're having thoughts. Remember, I said it's thoughts that's trigger emotions, and it's thoughts that's triggering the physiological stress response. What are the thoughts that we're having? And unfortunately, the thoughts that we're having is that last thought that George Floyd uttered, I can't breathe. 400 years of subjugation, marginalization, and attempted annihilation. I can't breathe. I'm concerned when my loved ones leave for the day, if they're going to come back okay. Will an encounter with the police lead to their demise? I can't breathe. I have to go to work. Will I be infected by COVID-19 that's disproportionately infecting African Americans? I can't breathe. These are our thoughts. I can't breathe. I lost my job. How am I going to keep a roof over my head and food on the table? I can't breathe. I can't breathe. These are the thoughts that are capturing our minds, and they're triggering the powerful negative physiological response that's wreaking havoc on our bodies and our brain. And you might even see it wreaking havoc on me during this presentation, just trying to get my words out. But what I want to share with you is, what is this physiological response? Those thoughts that I just shared with you, they triggered this onset. And what happens is a complex process that's out of our control. There's an increase in heart rate, an increase in breathing, an increase in blood pressure. So the cardiovascular system is hyperactivated. And while those systems are hyperactivated, other systems are inhibited. Our digestive system is inhibited. Our immune system that we need so much right now is inhibited. This is going on inside of our bodies. And again, like I said, it's wreaking havoc. And this is why we're feeling the symptoms that we're feeling. And so the one thing I want you to know is, what you are feeling is normal. And it's part of this powerful physiological stress response. Now, what can we do about it? What can we do about it? There are three key things I want you to remember: connect, reflect, and protect. First of all, connect with loved ones. We need each other right now. One of the most powerful things that I can remember from that video that almost broke my heart was to hear George Floyd call out for his mother. Mama. In facing death, his mind went to the person that was most important to him. We need to remember that. That's prophetic for us. Connect with our loved one. Whatever issues you had with your loved ones, put it behind us. Let's get behind this crisis. Connect with family, connect with friends, connect with neighbors, connect with coworkers. Rebuild those connections if they have been broken down. So again, that's the first thing: connect with loved ones, family, neighbors, friends, co-workers. And in this society, and even though we have to practice social distancing, we can do what we're using right now, using the technology. The second thing, reflect. Reflect on the positive. And what research is indicating is our most positive coping strategy that we have right now is spirituality. I'm amazed to see the reports on TV, to read articles that's just encouraging people to embrace their spirituality. It's powerful. It's been scientifically documented. And one small thing that you can do as part of embracing that is just simply what I call a blessings journal. Document the positive events and circumstances in this journal. Magnify and appreciate the little things. You know, we don't have to look to the big things right now. The little things. I woke up this morning. I have my health. My loved ones are still with me. The trees are beautiful. The sun is magnificent. The moon is awesome. Magnify the little things. This is part of our survival. This is us unleashing the power of our mind to get through this. And finally, just to share just a little bit of the research that talks about the importance of embracing our spirituality. A neuroscientist wrote this book, How God Changes Your Brain. And what it says, and I'm just going to briefly share this with you. And sorry about that. I have a touch the screen before I got a chance to share that. And it says, spend time in the presence of God. This is science. If you contemplate God long enough, then something surprising happens in the brain. Neural functions begins to change. Contemplating a loving God reduces anxiety and depression and increases feelings of security, compassion, and love. Intense prayer and meditation permanently change numerous structures and functions in the brain, reducing stress and altering your values and the way you perceive reality. I read a inspirational book each morning that's called Jesus Calling. And it seems like that book was prophetically written. On May 26th, it said, every person on the planet is facing gaping jaws of uncertainty. The only antidote to this poisonous threat is drawing closer to me. In my presence, you can face uncertainty with perfect peace. So again, that is a powerful coping strategy to ensure that we don't break down before the breakthrough, because indeed the breakthrough is coming. The final strategy I'd like to leave you with is protect. And I know I'm going through this quickly. The first one, connect with relatives. Reflect on the little things, the little blessings. This is probably, I won't say the most important, they're all important, but this is something that we have to focus on and work hard on. Protect your mind. Be deliberate about what you think. Avoid negative thoughts. Avoid conflict. Reduce time watching the news reports. Infuse your mind with positive thoughts, because in infusing your mind with the positive thoughts, we can mitigate against the negative impact of the physiological stress response that's wreaking havoc on our bodies. And I want to just say, and I'm going to this spiritual perspective, and we need to know this. God did not create humanity to be annihilated by a virus. He didn't create this universe to be decimated by pestilence. He did not create us as individuals of African descent to be destroyed by racism. We have to all out reject this as our reality. And that begins in our minds. So we don't break down. We have to be deliberate and infuse our minds with these positive thoughts. And I'm going to say, preach to yourself, sing to yourself, rap to yourself. Every morning I get up, I say, this is a day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. I will rejoice. I will praise the Lord. I will join all of God's creation and praise him. I'm the head, not the tail, above and not beneath. That's something this world can neither fathom nor perceive, but that's all right with me. I won't listen to the chatter that don't matter. I am bad to the bone. Weakness does not exist in my zone. The one who created me for greatness. So great I am and great I shall be. I will summon strength though I'm tired as heck, I am pushing their knee off my neck. We have to go there because we're going to survive this. And I want to leave you with this one final thought. These thoughts that we have, our God is saying, hold on. Your breakthrough is coming, because he can relate. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he was facing death. And facing that death, our Savior experienced anxiety. Our Savior experienced a depressive episode. It was so bad that he experienced hemohydrosis, where the sweat, like drops of blood, flowed down from his face. So right now, we don't have a God who cannot empathize with what we're going through. I can't breathe. Our God understands that. I can't breathe. But he's saying, hold on. Your breakthrough is coming. So don't break down before the breakthrough. Thank you. Thank you.
Ooh, okay. Listen, Sister Charlene, you did that. The presence of God flowed through that presentation. Let me tell you something. Dr. Brian said it best when he posted on Facebook. He said, "Preach." Listen, you you summed it up so well, because we need that. We need to know that yes, there are some very real physiological things that are happening, and we need to know that yes, we do have a very real God that can handle it. And so we're he his ears are not clogged, his arms are not short, his heart is not too heavy. He knows and understands. And when you went through, when you showed the slide where you showed the actual physiological, the actual parts of our body that are affected by what's going on, that was a powerful, powerful visual to see. We know what we feel, but when you showed the visual of seeing exactly what is happening, and when you broke down what is happening in our systems, our body is comprised of so many systems, and when those systems are not flowing as they ought because they have been affected or infected by trauma, then the way that you brought attention to that was so powerful. Thank you so much. And thank you guys who are online, who are giving such positive comments. Oh my goodness, this is definitely, yes, no, encouragement for the spirit. Most definitely. I because of the way this is flowed, and I saw it coming even before we started, that I definitely want to segue right into Dr. Brian Jones. I definitely, the way that you kind of queued it up, I'm a basketball fan, the way you set it up, I think the alley oop is coming with Dr. with Dr. Jones. So we're going to pass the ball over to you, Dr. Brian Jones.
Okay, well, I'm going to be brief because Reverend Charlene Black has already preached. So it's like I'm getting up after the preacher has already preached. I definitely support everything that she said, but I do have to challenge us, and this is not against her presentation. We have to begin to expand in our theology, though, because a lot of times we are preachy and we have these cliches. God is going to handle this. And that doesn't take away from God. But I do think that some of our theologies have to be expanded during this time, because this God, and people are having conversations around this God that has been taught to us a lot of times is not the God that really is, and I'm not saying we're changing God or taking away people's faith, but a lot of times, even culturally, the God that has been taught to us is not the God that is what we really feel. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's a whole nother workshop, whole nother conversation. But I do definitely, I'm a minister myself and support our theology, but I think it's a challenge for us to expand in our theology during this crisis. And what I mean by that, I'm going to be very brief, and I'm going to give a couple resources too, is that it's a mind, body, and spirit thing. And as I said, Reverend Charlene soon to be Dr. Charlene did an excellent job on that. But we really need to be training people also, as Dr. Charlene said, in that integrative piece. That is where we are missing the mark, because we do need a healthy theology and not an embedded theology. So that's a whole nother, as I said, conversation I don't have time to really talk about, because a lot of times we're operating in this embedded theology of what they taught us, or what, but not what really is in our spirits, you know. And even going to church every Sunday can be a embedded theology that's being shaken. You understand what I'm saying? Because we find God in church, but now we're having to find God for the people that have been embedded in theology. Now we find God in our homes, and God is still speaking. Yeah. God is still moving. God is still healing, and you haven't been to church in 3 months.
That's right.
You know, and that's not to attack, as I said, the church. But we need to get trained properly in helping people in what we call pastoral counsel, care and counseling. We need to get trained clinically in clinical pastoral education to be able to help people that are in trauma. You can pray, but there's more that God has given to us than just prayer. You need to know interventions and strategies. And what Dr. Charlene was talking about was the cognitive behavioral therapy and understanding your own belief system and helping people to understand their own belief system, because it's the ABC model. It is the activating event, the C is the consequence, and the B is the belief system. And a lot of our belief systems are being challenged right now. That's what's causing the anxiety, depression, and the stress that Dr. Charlene eloquently said to us. You know, and that's very important. So what I want to encourage people to do is 2 words: educate and empowerment. Educate and empower. And all I want to say is get trained. There are workshops that are available to help you understand trauma, hurt, pain, anger. You know, some of us need an anger management class. You know, even in the crisis, we can't, you know, because we're hurting. You know, anger management tools will help some of us, and that's our spirituality. Some of us, some of the protesters need anger management. It doesn't mean that you can't be angry. It doesn't mean you can't protest. It doesn't mean you can't react from what's going on and what's built up. But the problem is, a lot of us have had layers of trauma and layers of anger, and then we ran into a pandemic, and now we're in crisis. And it's layers of stuff that has to be dealt with. And some of us need mental health counseling. We need to invest in getting counseling. You can pray, and that's what I do. I believe in prayer, but you need a therapist, you need a trained therapist, and you need someone that can help you, that looks like you, and that understands your theology. And I'm just trying to be brief here because this is a whole nother workshop, but you need counseling. This is the time. Educate, but get some counseling, because some of us have layers of trauma. We call it complicated grief, complicated trauma. All right. And so that's for those ones. But the ones that are in the helping field also, once you get your own help, then you got to be able to help somebody else. And you need training. You need specialized training. It's almost like a doctor. You cannot go to a foot doctor if you got an eye problem. And that's what I'm encouraging you all to do. Get trained. There are people like myself and other people, Charlene, Cecilia, many other people that are out there that are doing this type of work. Brian, too, with mental health first aid. That's a given. You need to get trained. I know they're going to start doing that online, I'm hearing, and things like that. But get educated and get trained. CPE, clinical pastoral education, and workshops. And even as a mental health professional in Georgia, they are offering all kinds of workshops that you can take. You don't have to be licensed to be able to take a mental health workshop. All right, and we're going to start offering those things. I know Charlene and and Chelsea and other people are going to be working together to be able to offer those things and offer workshops and things like that through the faith-based initiative. And so those are things that and what I want to leave with you before I give you the resources is, if statistics were saying prior to the pandemic and to this racial uprise and tensions, if they were saying research was saying 1 out of 5 people have a mental health challenge. And then some of them say 2 out of 5. So I believe 2 out of 5, but that's 5 out of 5 now. So my thing is, don't wait. Everybody is in crisis. We got to accept that fact. I don't care whether you're providing care. I'm concerned about our pastors, because a lot of them are not in their pulpits. They're not able to be present with the people, and they're speaking on Facebook, and a lot of them are doing excellent jobs, but I can imagine the pain, the challenges that they're even carrying at this time, because it's a whole new way. And Professor Kiba said it earlier, some stuff is not going to return, and you need to accept that. Things are not going to be the same after this pandemic and after all of these racial tensions, everything. So we need to get trained now, because we haven't seen nothing yet. We keep on saying, well, God's going to handle it. God is going to handle it, but we haven't seen trauma yet. And I'm telling you, people and I may get in trouble, people in the United States, we, especially Black folk, I can say, we've been comfortable. And we have not, looked at things. I'm talking about the recent, now, not saying we haven't had struggle, don't get me wrong, but we've been very comfortable with things, comfortable with church and comfortable with the little praise and worship, but we haven't done any real work to be able to offer pastoral care and be present with people in pain. And we theologized it and hid, because we got these cliches, but we haven't dealt with people's brokenness and their trauma. And we've danced around it, we've shouted around it, we've preached around it. But now it's the time for us to get present and get connected with people that are in pain and get educated, and everybody serves a part. You don't have to be a licensed person to serve a part in, but get yourself together first. Put your own oxygen mask on first. Then you'll be able to be effective in helping other people. And that's all like I said, it's a whole nother workshop. Watch out for what Chelsea's doing, Charlene's doing. Alexis is on, I don't know her, but I know she's doing good work, and Brian's doing, and other people are doing. Get connected to what we're doing, Facebook, all these things. Get educated and get empowered. And I just want to share a few resources. One resource is The Body Keeps Score, right here. And you can Google it, and I'll put it up on the comments. But it talks about your body is keeping score of everything that's going on. And it's the brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma. So this is one of my resources that I use, because we need to start dealing with trauma. Another guide is called The Energetic Guide to Black Mental Health, Navigating an Unequal System, Learning Tools for Emotional Wellness, and Getting the Help That You Deserve. That's another book, The Energetic Guide to Black Mental Health. And you can Google it. Charmaine DeGod on the Breakfast Club have been promoting it. I read it. It's an excellent resource to help us in our mental health. And she does an excellent job. And her name is Dr. R-H-E-E-D-A, Rita Walker. And it's an excellent resource for you in helping you to deal with and understand Black mental health. Another book is called Disaster Spiritual Care, and it's by Stephen Roberts and Willard Ashley, Disaster Spiritual Care. And I'll try to put them in the comments before we close. But this is another resource, that can help you in disaster, because we're in a disaster, believe me, and we need to be. And the last one that I know a couple people that have contributed to this book is called Spiritual Care in the Age of Black Lives Matter. So get yourself educated on stuff, on resources that are going on. Mental health first aid, there's some trainers on here. You know, we got to start getting together and helping people deal with this mental health crisis and these different things that are going on. And that's all I have to say is that we gotta expand in consciousness and expand in our theology. And that God that we looked at and shouted about and everything is fine is not the God that is helping to carry us, that concept of God to carry us in this trauma. So we need new ways to look at God, new ways to look at our faith, new ways to look at us as a total holistic being, mind, body, and spirit, and understanding that, and also having specialists to be able to deal with the trauma of, you know, that people are experiencing, but to be able to help with the spirituality as well as the psychology, as Dr. Charlene put it. You got to put it together, but you need a specialization in understanding that in order to effectively, and I want to say effectively, help people during this time spiritually. We got to put those components together. And so I just want to encourage you, and I'm here as a resource, other people here as a resource, but that educate and also empower yourself. Mental health counseling is what you need, you know, to make sure you okay. Check it in. You don't have to be sleeping all day to know that you're in trauma. I'm in trauma, you know, and I'm paying attention to my own self. But we're going to need people that look like us to be able to also help people in trauma, right? And that's all I had to say.
Dr. Brian, thank you so much. You said so many wonderful things, and there's been so many people just commenting. Excuse me, they definitely want the names of the books, so I'm sure you're going to put that in there. But before I move on to Alexis, I need you to do something for me, because you've said something that maybe people don't know, because they maybe their first time hearing it, or maybe they heard it and think it means something else. Could you really quickly explain to people what pastoral care is? Because I think when they hear pastoral care, they may be just thinking, oh, that's for pastors. Could you explain what pastoral care is?
Pastoral care, in summary, a lot of times people think it's caring for the pastor. It is congregational care and community care on how you do it. And from being a board certified chaplain, CPE supervisor, and also I am the first African-American male for the College of Pastoral Supervision and Psychotherapy, our national chaplain organization. I'll be starting in January, taking that position. So I'm excited about a 30-year organization that I am the first African-American male to be the co-president of the national organization. But anyway, the part is pastoral care is not caring for the pastor, all right? That's pastor's aid, but caring for the congregation and the community. That is pastoral care. And also, we changing the word pastoral now into spiritual care. That's what Charlene was talking about, spirituality, spiritual care. So it's the same thing. We still use pastoral care because that's where I was trained, but also spiritual care is caring for the mind, body, and spirit of the congregation as well as the community.
Thank you. I love it. You were talking about Charlene, and you said preach with Charlene, but I'm sitting up here like, okay.
She can be doctor. That's why I'm calling it out.
Okay. I love it. I love, you said so many key things. I started writing things down, but I got so good. I was like, well,
all right, I'll put it in the book. I'll put it in the comment.
No, I'm saying some of the nuggets that you were saying, it was getting, I was writing some of it down. I was like, let me stop writing and just start listening, because you made some very valid points, you hit on some very good things, and
Thank you.
I'm going to segue now over to Alexis. Alexis, we want to hear your voice.
Well, I don't know if I have too much to say after all of those. You all were amazing, and it's definitely great to see, older generations, still believing in some of the very things that I believe in, and I am such a advocate for Black mental health, period, but especially in our communities, because we need it. It's been labeled crazy for too long, right? And so we need to talk about what that means. Where does it come from, and where does it stem? And as actually, I'm on pause right now, but was in a grad program for clinical mental health, and working in the on the educational realm. So it's nice to see like all of the parts coming together. Still figuring it out. Like I said, this journey is a journey in all of the sense. But you're absolutely right. I echo all of that. Our people, we really need help, and it's not just about our voices being heard, but what are we talking about in private? And our private conversations turn around and make our public actions make sense, right? And so that is a love from mine, and something that has kind of developed over the years. But I really want to talk about, what are we doing for our youth, right? How are we catering to them, and how are we expressing to them that it's okay to be upset, but where do we put those emotions, right? And so Dr. Kiva said it earlier, about just making sure, and it's, I think they are Generation Z, maybe. I'm a millennial, and I think they're Generation Z. And I laugh about it all the time, because I feel old when I'm with my students, but then sometimes I'm like, no, you're really not that far off. But their generation is so radical and so in your face, and they don't have any filters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought we were something, because the millennials, we get all the flack all the time. I'm like, what we do? But said all of that to say, I've been in the educational system for about 4 years now, right, fresh out of undergrad professionally. And I've seen so much trauma, more than I think I even knew existed. And I explained to my family the reason that this whole time has been, I think, harder for me, because I hope you all understand when I say this, but I come from a privileged Black family, right? Going to college, that's a privilege. Having a professional career, that's a privilege. Going to the grocery store and being able to live in the city of Washington, D.C. without worrying about my bills. I'm not saying we're rich, because there's a difference. A lot of people say, tie privilege and rich or wealth in the same sentence. But no, I can live in a suburban area and not feel like my life is going to be attacked. All Black people can't say that. And my students in particular are in spaces where they are not able to say that. So in a sense, I had to reevaluate how I can connect with them, because I some things they grew up with and I didn't. So I had to readjust myself as a Black woman to say, okay, what is your struggle as still a young Black man or Black woman? And what is that struggle, and how can I, as an educator and as an example, relate to you? So in the sense of this racial injustice and all of these current events, and we'll just talk about this for a moment. I've had a few students in this week, we had a check-in, and I told them, I'm like, all programmatic details, we're not talking about those this week. I need to check on your wellness. How are you as a student? And like I said earlier, I work with high school seniors. So not only are they dealing with these racial injustices, they don't have a graduation, they don't have a prom. All of these things have been now taken away from them. All the things that they have worked so hard for, now they get to the peak and it's like, it's not there. And then, oh, by the way, you're killing us. So it's a double whammy when it comes to our to this current generation in this class of 2020. And so I had to pray, and I had to sit with it for a minute and say, God, like, what do you want me to tell these students? How do you want me to offer some type of solace and tell them, okay, without my emotions getting in the way, right? Because I'm still a Black woman who, who still rightfully so fears for her life, like going outside, like, I don't know, what does that look like for me? And so I had to have a conversation, and a real conversation. And I think this is something that I want to encourage all people. We have to be transparent with this generation, because they are so open and they are so in your face. All the secrets that my parents' generation grew up on, and their parents' generation grew up on, and even some stuff that I'm just learning as as a new adult. And the transparency has to now come to an earlier age. Unfortunately, we have to talk about what this really means. Let's sit down and say, okay, when you get stopped by police, why do we have to have that conversation? Because it's real and it's a reality, and we can't walk around like, okay, well, this is just a moment and we'll get over it. No. This is happening way too much and way too frequent. And so having those open and transparent conversations about, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel everything that you're feeling, but let's put it in a productive manner. How do we do that? So in my email and my communications to my students, one of the things I talked about after being upset and after being, hurt, we got to get out and vote. We have to get out and vote. And all of my students are freshly 18 or will be 18 by the time those elections come around, and even the state and local elections. But those things are rights that our ancestors fought for and that people before us fought for. So yeah, we can get out there and riot just like they did, but we got to get out and vote just like they did, right? So those things we can't pick and choose what we want to get from the generations before and say, okay, now this works for us, but no, maybe not so much that, right? And so just being transparent with them and giving them the good, bad, ugly, indifferent, and everything in between. Because the more that you tell them, the more that they'll, one, respect you. Because I've had to learn that as an educator. You hear about, teachers saying, okay, because I said so. We all know, we all grew up with that. This is what you're supposed to do because I said so. And we often hear like, okay, well, this child is bad or this child is out of control. No, they just need to sit down and be talked to. They want to be heard just like you want to be heard. Even though they're 13, 14, 15, 16, they want to be heard just like you as an adult wants to be heard, right? And so not just their voices being heard, but they want to know what you know, and not always standing in front of the classroom or not always on TV or on the main platform, but just sitting in your living room and having real conversations with your students and your young people, and showing them that it's okay to be vulnerable. I was on a call with all of my students, and I've been in this whole pandemic, I feel like me and my students are more family now, because they didn't see my living room, they know my couch, they know my pillows, they know, all these things, because we're on this virtual space. And they saw me cry because it hurt. And to see all of my Black students on a platform, and I'm like, any one of you all could have been that hashtag. Any one of you all can still be that hashtag. And I'm so very intentional about relationship building when it comes to anybody that I come in contact with, but especially my students, because I'm like, I have to be able to show you the example of what it's like to be a person before you can be a professional, before you can be a mom, a dad. What is it like to be a person? Let's get in your heart. Let's see what's really on the inside, right? And me building that relationship also comes with the vulnerability. And that's what happened when I had my conversation with them this week. And before I knew it, I was in tears on this call with all 40 of my students. And I'm like, okay, let's get it together. And we have an ongoing joke like, Miss Alexis, you a thug, what's going on? Why you got tears? But in this moment, they understood that they're not the only ones that's feeling like this. It's hitting us all. It's hitting us in every single area, in every single home. And so just sharing that vulnerability with them, at first I was like, oh my gosh, like I just really broke down in front of all my students. But I got so many text messages or emails after that, and it was like, Miss Alexis, like, I'm hurting too. And as soon as they saw me break, they felt that it was okay to share that same vulnerability. They said, Miss Alexis, I'm hurting. I had students text me like, I had to sneak out the house so I can go protest because my mom was scared for me to go outside. I had to, I'm breaking curfew because I want my people to get justice. Like being able to have those real conversations. And I'm of course stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I'm like, I want y'all to go, but I need y'all to come back home and be safe. And I don't want you to get in trouble because you snuck out and you didn't tell your mom, right? So it's a very interesting space to be in as a millennial educator and in these spaces, because I like to say I'm old enough for you to respect me, but I'm young enough for you to relate to me. And I think they understand that, because I am so very like, let's get this relationship going. How you doing? How you feeling today? They know whenever we on the phone, or if ever you text me, it's a, hey, how you doing first before we talk about any business, because you are still a human being. You aren't just a student that is going to grow up to have to influence, and influence could be in a great way, and influence can also be in a negative way. You're still going to have some influence on somebody else that comes after you. So until you are shown what that influence can be, that positive influence, you're not going to have that example, right? And so it is our duty, and even if you're not in the educational realm, or if you're not a parent or a big sister or big brother, You have some young person that is looking up to you in some fashion or another. It is our jobs and our part. Mr. Jones said it, or Dr. Jones said it, like we all have a part to play, right? As young people, they're still growing. They're still, yeah, they on the Instagram and all of that stuff, but they're still here. They're still present and physically in this space and in this reality. So what are we going to do to be able to raise up the next generation to have that same radical, I'm about it. I want to get my voice heard. I want to get some justice, but also understanding like, okay, when I'm all over the rile and the upset and in my emotions, now I got to come back down and think rationally. How do we get the rationality and the radical to make sense in their minds? How do we do that? And I think the first part of that is just having those conversations, sitting them down and let them talk. I say it all the time. I'm like, sometimes they don't even want us to talk. They don't want our advice. They just want to get it off their chest. They just want to vent, right? And being able to know that as a mentor or someone in that space, you have to be able to read your audience, read your room, read the people who you're in conversation with, and young people especially, because they're going through the hormones and they're trying to figure out like, I don't know if I'm feeling like this because I saw something on Instagram or if I'm really upset, right? They're still trying to figure out how to make or identify those two. And so just sometimes sitting down and say, okay, how you doing today? And really mean it. Be genuine. Don't have a generic how you doing, because we all have that. Hey, how are you? Okay, good. That's normal, right? But no, really mean it. Make it come from your heart. And even if it's not a how you doing, how you feel, what you thinking today. What are those things that will entice some of that conversation? And so I don't have, a whole, I'm like I said, still learning in school, but that is what I do know. That relationship is key and it's priceless. And I believe all of us have that one person or two people that can look back in their lives and say, yep, that's that person that helped me get to who I am now. And even if you've never encountered a young person or felt like a mentor to a young person before, it's never too late to start, because like I said, they're still coming, they're still growing, and they're still evolving. And it is our duties to stand in those gaps when mom and dad don't necessarily say the right thing at home, or if the teachers are calling you out your name because they just frustrated with all the other systematic issues going on. How can we be those people to stand in those gaps to say, I hear you, I see you, I believe in you, and I trust in everything, that all the steps that you make are going to be, first of all, your decisions, because you have to have that empowerment to make those decisions, right? We can't make them for you. We can instruct, but we can't decide. And so giving them that empowerment to make those decisions, but also to say, and my grandmother, she gave this to me good yesterday. She said, we all have the power to make the decision, but we also have to have the understanding to know the consequence that comes after it. And that is absolutely 100% absolutely on point. Yeah, you have the power to make the choice in the decision, but also you have to be big and understand what comes after it is the direct result of your choice and your decision. And so that's really my piece and my offering to us in these spaces, because Dr. Kiba said it, we are absolutely right. We're seeing our young people out there, they're upset, they're enraged and all of that, and it's a beautiful thing, because we know that they're not just sitting behind the computer screens like they're always labeled. They about it, and that's what's up. I love it. And I'm right there in the middle where I'm like, okay, I want to go out there, I want to have my protest, and express that, but I also got to think about, I worked hard to get to where I am now, and how can I change it from behind this screen, right? It's that double consciousness again, not just being an angry Black woman, but being an angry Black professional that still got to pay bills, that still got to make sure my things are straight at home, right? And so, though they don't have, for the lack of a better term, so much to lose, they do, their lives. That's big enough, right? That's big enough. But we have to, if they're going to go, and this is what I share with my students, if you're going out, I 1000% support you, but please make sure you are out there in the, as peaceful as you can be, right? and make sure you come back home and follow up with that. That follow up that, you know, we all as professionals know is very important. That follow up is key to say, okay, I did it. I said my piece. Now I got to go register to vote in all of the level elections. So because it's systematic. It's not just they picking and choosing, you know, the times and the places that they want. This is systematic. So we got to go from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top, however you want to look at it. And so just giving them that empowerment all the way around, not condemning them because they're going out and looting. They're pissed. They're upset. And please excuse my, you know, my term, but they're upset. But we had generations before us do the same exact thing. This isn't new. This isn't, you know, something that they just came up with. They are just going with what just like say slavery and all of the other racial injustices are now repeating itself. So is the rioting, so is the looting. It's repeating itself. So now it's our job to instill a new system. How can we do this? How can we follow up like the people before us did in some way, and then, you know, could have done better with the follow up. So giving them that empowerment to make the decision, but also giving them the understanding to know whatever you make, whatever you say, it's a consequence that follows after, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. There's always something to follow after it. And so that's really, you know, my piece. And like Dr. Jones said, it's so much more that you can have a whole completely different conversation on and, you know, delve into. But if you have a young person near you in your house, in, you know, at your church or wherever, connect with them. They want that connection. And I know it's a different generation, but they talk just like we do. They feel just like we do. And it, you know, it's just a way of sitting down and getting to know their way of doing it, right? It's the same conversation, it's the same dialect, it's the same understanding. They just got a phone to help them. They got they got a computer to help assist, you know, come up with some of those thoughts and ideologies. And I think Miss Charlene said it earlier about protecting your mental peace. I am one day, if I could get it tattooed on my forehead, I would. Like, that mental space and that mental peace is valuable. And the moment you let somebody or some things take it away, you no longer have control over your heart. And that's on a period. You know, as I was about to age myself, as the kids say, that's period. Like, if you can't protect your mind, nothing else is really going to work, because this is the central function. And so I got off in Mama Cookie, Chelsea, sorry, we, you know, kind of figuring out this this separation. But I wanted to post our flyer for even today, but I kid you not, I watched the Fred Hammond and Kirk Franklin versus last Sunday, and it was amazing, right? I get back on my timeline and all I'm seeing is videos and all this stuff. And I was like, I can't do this. And I literally deleted everything. So that mental space, and you have to, but that also goes with that self-work. You got to know yourself to know how much you can and can't take, right? That's that intentionality on knowing who you are. And I knew, I said, okay, if I see one more video, and I haven't watched any of the videos because I know that's not something that I can take, right? Because I know myself. And I said, okay, no, you're just gonna have to delete. Yeah, we social distance, but now it's gonna add another layer to social distance. It's gonna give it a new meaning, because I got a social distance, and if you need me, you should have my number, and if you don't, then I mean you don't need me. So that's just the way that I look at it. But I had to really step back and protect the little that I still have left, right? Because this pandemic has taken a toll on everybody. I had to come back down to Georgia to come be with my family, because I'm like, I've been separated from them longer than we like to, and my family is very close knit. So I'm like, if I don't get a hug, a kiss, or something, y'all gonna have to come check on me, right? So I had to put myself in that position to come and see my family and be with my family, and it's been amazing. And it's actually helped me get back to that center, the things that I know that helps me get to the next day, right? Family is God, then family, and that's just the way that Alexis is built. And so when I felt one thing leaving, I'm like, okay, we gotta get back to it. And yeah, I'm a part of the semi-radical generation. So I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be getting on the plane in a pandemic, but I'm going because I need to see my family, right? And so, thank God that he's covered me and kept me protected. But I knew that that was something that I needed for my mental space, for my well-being, and so I'll double tap on Miss Charlene and everyone else that has said it. Like, protect your mental space, protect your well-being, because if that don't work, nothing is working. And I think that is real as it gets. So, in addition to that, of course, like I said, tap into the young people. They need it. They need that guide and that direction. They may not say it verbally, they may not say it right out, and like, I need your help. But if you pay attention long enough, you'll start to be able to read and say, okay, this is where I should step in, and this is what I need to give, versus this is what I need to just sit and listen, right? So being able to understand and read your audience and read the people that you are encountering, those relationships are invaluable, and they have no price on it. And to see them evolving into themselves because of something you may have said or done or not, and just been there, it's amazing. It's a price nobody can ever pay. So that is my day. And that's what I have for you guys. So thank you again for this platform. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of our panel.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Oh my goodness. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And the comments that have been coming in, that have been flooding in while you were speaking, and all of our panelists have been so encouraging. I'm glad that something is being said, guys, that is a help to you as you're watching here on Facebook. I'm hoping that you are taking note, that you are absorbing and taking in it all. I thought about something that Al Sharpton said during the services for George Floyd on yesterday that Alexis touched on a moment ago, and when he said that he himself, that was his first time getting out since the beginning of the pandemic, and he said that those that were flooding the streets and protesting, they were not only, they were not only they were putting their own health at risk, because we are definitely still in the midst of a pandemic that is disproportionately affecting our Black and Brown community. And when I say that, I don't just mean African Americans and Hispanics, but it also is disproportionately affecting our Native American brothers and sisters. So the Black and Brown community is being disproportionately affected by a virus that's never been that is completely brand new. So however a person protests, whether you're out in the streets or if you choose to be behind the keyboard or the most powerful protest is with your wallet, however you want to protest. If you think back to the bus boycotts, that lasted over 300 days. And that was that they boycotted for those several days, and they found other means to get where they needed to go. And that boycott was a financial hit, and it gave a great voice. So however you protest, no one can knock how someone protests, as long as we're all saying with the same voice that this is enough is enough. So thank you again, Alexis. So I turn it over to my kind brother. And thank you again, Dr. Brian, Ms. Charlene. I thank you, and for Professor Keeper, who had to teach in the class. I thank you guys so much for all that you guys have shared. And it's been, like I said, it's like sitting in a room filled with my superheroes. I'm just sitting here like a kid, just absorbing it all. And I'm hoping that those of you who are on Facebook are feeling the same way as I am. I turn it over now to my brother and friend, Brian Keith Anderson.
Yes, once again, it is a pleasure to be here. I've listened to my comrades on this battlefield. Kudos to all of you, because I believe we're on the same mission, helping all God's children get through this time of struggle. It's a lot, and it's been heavy. It's been heavy for all of us. And I come from the aspect of a person who have been through a whole lot of trauma, starting at the age of 5, homelessness, 7, molestation, homelessness again at the age of 10 and 11, turned to drugs and alcohol at 17, 3 times jail, 2 suicide attempts. I can go on and on. about what I've been through. But with the help of God and somebody that had been through what I was going through and a praying father, I was able to make it through. So I'm the person that a person can come to if they want to talk to, that have been through some things and can relate on some type of level. Three tools, three tools. What do you do? What do you do when on top of everything else, life keeps showing up? What do I mean by that? Man, before the pandemic, we had everyday bills. We had everyday stresses that we dealt with. We had jobs that some of us did not like. We had family members that we did not get along with at all times. We had children and spouses and things like that that sometimes it went awry. But on top of that, here comes the pandemic. For the first time in this world's history, that we had to do things that we've never had to do before. And on top of that, there comes just racial tension all over the world. And on top of that, I see my brethren dying on television like we've had in so many other instances. On top of that, so what do when on top of everything else, life keep showing up? Three steps that I've used. And the beauty of what I tell you today is not only do I believe they work, but I know they work. There's a difference between believing and knowing. I will share that at the end of this short presentation. The first step that I come up with is, on top of everything else, what do you do when life keeps showing up? You praise God. Wow, what do I mean by that? How in the world is it possible for anybody to praise God in the middle of all that's going on? It's because it's easy to praise God when the refrigerator is full, when you got money in your pocket, when you got gas in your tank, when your job is going well, when relationships in the family is going well. It's easy to do it then, but what do you do? How can you do it in the middle of the storm? There's a phrase that I ran across that says this: there is a place inside of praise where problems can't go, troubles can't go, sorrows can't go, trauma can't go, because somewhere in the midst of praise, you come to realize that you are not alone. My goodness, I'm going to say that one more time. So the number one step is praise God in the middle of it. There is a place inside of praise where problems can't go, troubles can't go, traumas can't go, sorrows can't go, because somewhere in the middle of praise, you come to realize that you are not alone. My goodness, I am comforted in that first step. So the first step, praise God. The second step, you got two choices. You can either grab a giant feather or grab a sledgehammer. What do I mean by that? And I'm just talking just the movement, just a step. Grab a huge hammer, or a feather. Because if we consider what we're dealing with today, a giant wall, and if you grab a giant feather and you swing at that wall and swing at that wall, nothing is going to happen with that wall. But if you grab a sledgehammer and then you think about what you're going to do next, because this is the second step. Two choices: grab a feather or a sledgehammer. First step, praise God. Second step, grab a sledgehammer or a feather. And the third step, go to work. What do I mean by that? If you go to work with a feather, nothing is going to happen with that wall in front of you. But if you grab that sledgehammer and you start going to work, when I'm talking about going to work, I'm talking about utilizing those tools and techniques that you've learned. Utilize these strategies that you've gained over these years, the courses, the studies that you've learned. Utilize them. Don't just grab them. That's step two. But then utilize them. Step three, put them to work. First step, praise God. Second step, grab a sledgehammer. And the third step, go to work. And the beautiful part about what I do, when they see me, a person that has been through literal hell and back, still grabbing that sledgehammer and going to work, that brings hope. We've learned in my line of work that there are 5 key recovery concepts: hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. Hope is the number one thing that a person needs on their road to any type of recovery, whether it be from the trauma that we're dealing with today. Hope is the number one thing. So if they realize that, man, there's a way, but I can't be soft. Another statement that we use is that you can't be soft trying to accomplish something that is hard. You cannot be soft trying to accomplish something that is hard. So I know it's tough. I know it's rough. I know it's hard on us, but I truly believe the word says before we were formed in our mother's bellies, God, he says he knew us. And that word knew us, that word knew means he approved of us. My goodness, you mean to tell me that God saw my homelessness at the age of 5, molestation at the age of 7, homelessness again, drug addiction, mental illness, 3 times jail, suicide attempts before I was born, and he approved of me? That's exactly what I'm telling everybody out there that's going through something. God approved of every one of us. And not only did he approve of us, but he equipped us. And he equipped us to get through it with leaning on him. That's why the first step is praise God in the middle of everything that we're going through. Last thing that I'm going to leave you with, because I'm not going to keep you long, because I know that there's others that want to get on. But I get excited when it comes to giving hope and the possibility to God's children. In 1954, before 1954, it had been stated that it's humanly impossible to run under a 4-minute mile. Many had tried, all had failed. But in 1954, a man named Roger Bannister was the first human being to run under a 4-minute mile. After Roger Bannister did it, tens of thousands of people started to do it, even high school kids. The question that I pose to you is why? Why was people able to do it after Roger Bannister did it? The answer is easy, because they knew it could be done. Just like everybody on this line, we've been through some things in our lifetime, and we've got the tools and we've got the techniques, and we are using them, and we're applying them to our lives. So the others that are watching us, the others that are coming to us, hey man, they know it can be done. So that's the beauty, that's the joy that I feel when I'm giving this message to others.
Wow, I'm just sitting there waiting no more. That was amazing, my brother. And I was typing in the comments what you were saying. Oh my goodness. That was amazing. I love that. Why were others unsuccessful before? Because we were told, or they were told, that they couldn't go past that. But when
Exactly.
someone else did, when someone else broke that barrier, they realized, I can do it. I can do it. And I'm elated. Um, just, oh my gosh, my heart is overjoyed, really,
Amen.
at what has been poured out. I'm going to start with you, my friend Brian. If you could share with the viewers how they may contact you, how they may stay connected to you.
I'm gonna give you all my information, because once again, Beautiful Scars Inc. is as a 501c3. We are mobile. We go where the need is. You can email me at beautifulscars65@yahoo.com, or you can go to my website where all of my contact information is www.beautiful-scars.org, or you can call me. I give out my telephone number to anyone that's in need. 706-231-9588. Once again, 706-231-9588. You can view my books. I've written 2 books that have made their way South Africa, Japan, and the UK. Blows my mind when I think about it, because my message have flown places I've never been in my life. What a mighty God we serve. So once again, www.beautiful-scars.org, 706-231-9588. God bless you all.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. One more time, I want to make sure, 706.
231-9588.
Uh-huh. Got it, got it, got it. Wonderful. And while I'm putting this in, Sister Charlene, if you could share how people can get in contact with you.
Thank you so much, Celia. I'd love to do that. And I want to encourage you. And with my message, I wanted it to be uplifting and
Yeah,
inspiring.
it was. It
But what
was.
I thank you. But what I want to encourage you to do, like Brian said, if you're hurting, and we are hurting right now, we're all hurting. But please don't suffer in silence. Please don't suffer in silence. And if you're feeling depressed, even suicidal, again, I want to encourage you, don't suffer in silence. And the best way to contact me, and I want to be able to walk you through this. I'm diagnosed with major depressive disorder, so I get it. I talked about protecting your mind, because every day I wake up and have to protect my own mind through the tears. So I get it. You're not talking about looking at someone and speaking to someone who only has book knowledge. I get it. And the best way to contact with me so we can walk through this together, I'll give you my phone number, 678-764-4697. My website, mattersoftheheartcounseling.com, and my email, Charlene3843@att.net. But then the best and quickest way to get to me is my phone, and I will call you right away because I'm going to make sure that I walk beside you. And that's 678-764-4697. Thank you.
Thank you. I just posted your information as well here in the thread for those who want to connect with you. I'm so excited that we have such great resources that are available to us. For those of you who want to stay connected to us here at Pain and Glory, we welcome you to join. We know you're right here on our Pain and Glory page, so we know that you're here. You're obviously here, but we also have a group page, Pain in the Pews Mental Health and Ministry, where we share in some of the same things that you're seeing here. We share there within the group. There we have every Monday night, 7:00 p.m. We have the Pain in the Pews weekly broadcast, 7:00 p.m. right here. This was actually a special edition of that. This is not on the scheduled programming, but every Monday night, 7:00 p.m., we have Pain in the Pews Mental Health and Ministry broadcast where we bring on different guests, where we bring in different speakers, and this week will be no different. We will have life coach Celeste Houston that is going to be coming to talk to us about living a purposeful life. You do not want to miss it. Tune in with us on next week. Be sure to follow us here on Facebook. You can also follow Pain and Glory at painandglory.com. We have coming up in September our annual conference, Pain and Pews Mental Health and Ministry. It will be virtual, so you can join us just as you are joining us here. Before I forget, Alexis, if you have any closing comments or anything that you wanted to share before we close out.
I just wanted to say thank you again. And I am working on getting a professional page, but you can actually I can share with you all my email if you would like to get in contact with me. And it's alexis.hardywheels@gmail.com. So first and last names. So I am pretty responsive to emails, and you can find me on Facebook at Alexis Sean Wheels. So I for the sake of this moment, I am off of social media, so it might be a little bit quicker to get to me via email, but it again is alexis.hardywheels@gmail.com if you would like to share. And then I'm even open to resources. Like I said, it's an ongoing journey for me, so I am interested in hearing a lot of different perspectives and just having this as an ongoing conversation because it can't stop here. So just wanted to say thank you again for the platform and to be able to share, my perspective and even to hear and get some nuggets for myself as I am moving forward. So always willing to learn, always open and appreciative. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate. Also, Dr. Brian Jones left. He had to leave, but he left his contact information for us right here in this thread. I thank you so much, Alexis. I thank you so much, Charlene. I thank you so much, Brian, for being a part of this. I thank Professor Kiba. I thank Dr. Jones. This has been amazing. This has been so encouraging. And mainly, I thank those who have joined in, those who have been on with us today, and those who may watch the replay. Thank you so much. We hope that something has been said, as I said earlier, that it makes you think, gives you hope, inspires you, lets you know that we are with you and we are in this together. There is hope, healing, there's restoration. We got this. As long as we have it together. You are just a phone call, a click of the mouse, a click of your fingers away from someone Stay connected, stay connected, stay connected. Alexis made a good point about the family. We make the phone calls, text, FaceTime, whatever it takes to stay connected. We may be socially distancing, but that does not mean we have to be socially distant. So keep that in mind. Again, thank you to my panel. I love you all from the depths of my heart. Thank you guys for such amazing comments I'm seeing here on Facebook. I love you all. Have an amazing weekend. Go out, get some natural vitamin D, social distance. But for me, y'all, if you see me on social media, you all know I'm going to my patio. So, but enjoy your family, enjoy it. If you have to disconnect, unplug, stay away from social media for a minute, turn off CNN and Fox News and ABC, CBS, NBC. If you need to turn that off for a minute, please do so. Please do so. And take care of the only one that you have. This is the only one we get. Take care of it. Love you guys. Be blessed. Talk to you soon. Talk to you Monday, 7 o'clock, right here, Pain in the Pews. Love you guys.